Okay, so let's continue with the small intestine. So the small intestine can be divided into three parts. The top part, so we got the stomach and then the small intestine. The top part of the small intestine is called the duodenum. People can pronounce it duodenum or duodenum. Then the middle section is the jejunum, and the last section is the ileum. Okay, so again, the small intestine is called small. That's not because it's short, it's long, but it's the diameter. Okay, so it has a 1 inch diameter. Okay, so there it is. So the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum. The duodenum gets secretions from the liver because the liver is going to be right here. And secretions from the pancreas. The pancreas is going to be right here. So there are a lot of, don't ask me why they call it this, but they call them digestive juices. There are a lot of digestive juices that are being added. So for example, you start the digestion of starch in your mouth. There's salivary amylase in the saliva, so starches start digesting in the mouth. Here in the stomach, the hydrochloric acid is breaking stuff down, and then there's pepsin that's starting to break down the protein. And then here, the bile from the liver is going to be added, and the bile helps break down fats. And then you have tons of digestive enzymes that are being released from the pancreas. So these secretions are going to be added to the chyme, the pasty chyme. Okay, if you've ever vomited, you know how it's like it burns and it's like yellow and you're like, what is that? Well, it's the stuff that was added in the stomach and it went back up. Okay, so when it comes down this way, which it normally does, right, that's the chyme. And so those secretions are going to be added to the chyme. So chyme, there it is mixed with bile and pancreatic juice. Digestion absorption takes place chiefly in the small intestine. So tons of absorption is happening in the small intestine, and some more chemical digestion, breaking the food even further, because you cannot absorb the proteins. Proteins are really huge molecules. You have to break them down to amino acids. So those are what makes up proteins before you can absorb them. Same with the carbohydrates. They need to be broken down into the simple carbohydrates, the monosaccharides, before you can absorb them. And then it's funny, fats, again, they are going to get absorbed, but fats actually get absorbed into the lymphatic system. So that's interesting. So here, tiny capillaries and lymph vessels, okay, absorb the nutrients, which are transferred to the body through the circulatory system. So the food, the nutrients are going to get into the blood. Now they're in the circulatory system and they're going to circulate around the body and get to the cells, right? And those nutrients, those building blocks, get to the cells through the circulatory system. So it says components of chemical digestion. So mechanical is the mastication and the churning, but how about the chemical? What are the enzymes that are being added on? So in saliva, there's the salivary amylase that breaks down starch, sugar. Here, the gastric juice, again, gastric, we're talking about the stomach. So the renin, right, for milk products, pepsin for proteins, lipase, starting to break down those fats. Bile contains no enzymes, but it helps with breaking down large fat droplets. It helps with literally breaking them down. And pancreatic juice, now all these enzymes are going to be with the pancreatic juice. So trypsin for proteins, pepsin for proteins, amylopsin for starch. And then once we're in the intestines, again, there's going to be some more chemical digestion. So sucrase, whenever you see ACE, we're referring to an enzyme. Sucrase, enzyme breaking down sugar, sucrose. Lactase, enzyme breaking down lactose, milk sugar. Maltase, enzyme breaking maltose, another type of sugar, malt sugar. So yeah, and then it says resulting product, glucose, fructose, glucose, galactose, glucose. So those are simple sugars, they're monosaccharides, and now those can go through the lining of the intestine and get absorbed into the blood and then get carried to our cells. sugar, glucose. We need it for energy. That's our primary source of energy. Then the food, right? By now, it's not food at all. It's just this junk. And really, by now, it's feces, right? Feces, another word for poop. There's all kinds of words, right? Stool, you might hear that term. And by then, by the large intestine, that's what's there, okay? Stuff we can no longer absorb, okay? Liquid, now water, we absorb water there. We absorb electrolytes there, vitamins, minerals, etc. So the large intestine is divided into different parts. So again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So where is it? This would be the end of the small intestine, so the ileum. And then here's the large intestine. Again, it's called large because of its diameter. It's 2.5 inches. Okay, so here, you've heard of your appendix. The appendix is over here on the side. And then here's the beginning of the large intestine. So it's called the cecum. And then the ascending colon, because it's going up. The transverse colon, it's going across. The descending colon going down. Sigmoid, it's like a S, sigma. The rectum, the reason it's called rectum, rectus, it's going up and down, okay? And then the anal canal and the anus, okay? And these are little curvatures here. Okay, they didn't label them, so we're not gonna worry about them, okay? So in babies, you know, when babies are born, their first stool, the poop, right? There it is, right? The feces, the stool. It's called meconium. And what is that? It kind of looks black. It's a thick, sticky, dark green in color, black green. It's a mixture of amniotic fluid secretions from intestinal glands, usually passes 8 to 24 hours. So they haven't been eating, right? It's just all the stuff that they've been in when they're in the uterus. So yeah, meconium. Sometimes in utero, so in the uterus, they can aspirate the meconium, or and that would be really bad, and they have to get rid of that. Okay, so accessory organs. Now let's get into the accessory organs. So the salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. So salivary glands, saliva. Saliva is really important. Right? It mixes with the food. It helps with digestion, and it helps with taste also. It says respond to the sight, smell, taste, mental image of food. We start salivating, getting ready. We're getting the digestive process ready to break down that food. So the parotid, submandibular, sublingual, we already talked about them. So parotid, again, if I told you here's some lemons, you know, let's start biting on it. Right away, you'll feel some tension there, right? You're getting ready in an anticipation. So the submandibular, the sublingual, linguistics, we're talking about the tongue. Liver, largest glandular organ, okay, in the upper right part of the abdomen. Okay, the liver does a lot for you. You couldn't survive without your liver. So involved with, let's see, fat metabolism, breaking down fats, carbohydrate metabolism, glucose to glycogen, and glycogen is a polysaccharide. It's a storage form of sugar. So if you take in too much sugar, okay, what does your body do? Does it pee it out? Is it like, I'm done with the sugar, I'll pee it out? No, the body doesn't do that. The body's going to hold on to it. So it'll take those sugars, those monomers, the monosaccharides, and it'll make a polymer. It'll make a big chain of sugars, and that's called glycogen. So we store that in our liver for then, if it's needed again, we break it back down. Fat metabolism, yes. Protein metabolism, yes. It says the liver is involved with protein anabolism and protein catabolism. Anabolism is protein building. Catabolism is protein breaking down. So a lot of the liver is very important. Here it is. Here's the liver. Here's the gallbladder. It's a storage sac for bile. And then here's the pancreas. Again, it's inferior and posterior to the stomach, because there's the stomach. And then there's the duodenum, right? The first part of the small intestine. And then here you have the common bile duct that's going to take the bile and the pancreatic juices and mix them into the duodenum. So, right, the liver makes bile, fibrinogen, prothrombin, heparin, blood protein, so other functions. Heparin, that has to do with blood anticoagulation. The liver stores B12, A, D, E, and K vitamins, detoxifies. You know, you hear about alcoholism in the liver. The liver is a huge detoxifying organ. So it takes that alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin. It takes it, breaks it down. So that's why, you know, you hear about people getting cirrhosis of the liver, where the liver gets damaged. Alcoholism, drug use will do this because the liver is breaking that stuff down, and in the process, the liver can get damaged too if it's excessive. Gallbladder, a little bag, really, and it stores bile, okay? And it secretes bile when you have like a big fatty meal. Pancreas, again, really important with digestive enzymes, so helping digest, and it releases those fluids into the duodenum. So there is the pancreas, here's the gallbladder, and here is the common bile duct, and stuff's going to get released into the duodenum, so for further chemical digestion. So newborn, they talk about FYIs. Here they talk about appendectomy. Oh my gosh, you know, when someone has appendicitis, remember itis, what are we talking about? We're talking about inflammation. If it's inflamed and if it's bad, it needs to be removed. If it's not removed, what will happen? Well, there's in the large intestine, there's feces, there's poop, and the feces and the poop is full of bacteria, harmful bacteria. But when you think about it, that's still outside the body, because the tube from the top, right, the mouth and the anus, the tube's connected to the outside. So in reality, the stuff in the tube is on the outside too, and it doesn't get in until it gets absorbed into the blood. So here, you know, the feces are in here, right? But if the appendix gets damaged and bursts, now the feces goes into the abdominal cavity, and now a person is at risk for sepsis, and they can, you know, they could die from that. So it's very, very painful. Appendicitis is very, very painful, but if the appendix bursts, now the person feels relief, right? But that means feces are going all over their body cavity, and it needs to be taken care of, or they will die within, you know, I don't know, 24 hours, 48 hours, because all those bacteria, all that stuff is going to get into and infect their body. So yeah, they show this area, McBurney's point. If a child has appendicitis, you know, where's the pain going to be? Ooh, yes, they talk about hairy tongue. That's a picture in your book. So building your medical vocabulary. Gallbladder, gallstones, that can happen, and it can block the bile duct. Now we're having problems, okay? And then, so there's different ways in treating that. They can use ultrasound to treat it. If it's really bad, they have to do surgery. And it's not uncommon for people to have their gallbladder removed. The surgery is actually super cool. You can look it up on YouTube. Right? Look it up on YouTube, gallbladder surgery. And they do it laparoscopically. So they cut the little incisions in the abdomen, put their tools in, and then they can suck out the gallbladder. I had a friend who had it done, and it's really neat because you don't have these huge incisions, like don't have to cut the abdomen to get there. And then how does that change the person? Well, then they have to be careful with fatty meals. They have to make sure they don't eat large fatty meals. Although I've had students in the past that have had this done, and they're like, I eat the same the way I did before, I'm fine, right? So everybody's different. Ooh, horrible, horrible picture. Look at that. If you saw that, you're like, this does not look healthy, right? It says that it was from a deceased patient with cirrhosis. So cirrhosis, that's damage to the liver. Colorectal cancer. We hear about rectal cancer or colon cancer. These are the tumors, right? In cancer, tumors. And, you know, we could do a colonoscopy to actually see. And with a colonoscopy, they see it and they can take out the tumors. So important. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop here.